is this. So we are constantly evolving and changing. I saw some of y'all. Some of y'all went like this, and some of y'all went like that. We are constantly evolving and changing. Things that have changed since we were kids, the back in the day time. So Katie Gonzalez and I were having this conversation the other day about how we were getting, she was like, I was so confused the other day when someone was talking about how the 90s were so long ago. And she's like, no, they're not. They weren't that long ago. No, they're not. That was just like 5-10 years ago. And she's like, then I realized, no, the 90s were actually 30 years ago. They were quite a ways back. How many of y'all remember dial-up internet?
Oh, yeah.
When internet became a thing. And if somebody started making a phone call, you lost your internet connection, right? And you're like, who put up the phone? I was almost on the internet. Now I gotta start that thing all over again. You're like, seriously? And I remember that. Like, it's not that long ago. But now we are literally connected to the internet every single second of the day. Some of y'all are connected to the internet right now on your phone sitting there because I'm already boring and you're like, that's it. She's just telling jokes, or I'm just kind of done. I gotta order my food for today. Some of y'all are currently on your phone and your internet as it is because we are constantly ever evolving, ever changing. There's glasses now that you can literally wear and have stuff appear in front of you that nobody else can see, just you. We are constantly evolving and changing. We used to have pagers, which is so funny if you think about pages or beepers, and all of a sudden your pager goes off, you're like, oh, wait, I'm beeping. Wait just a second. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me. Do you have a phone I can use? I gotta call so-and-so. Right? That was not that long ago, and now there are times I just put my phone down. I'm like, I could constantly messaging somebody probably at any time of the day or night, and there's sometimes I just take my phone and I go, okay, I just need a break from it. Could you imagine if that's how pagers would have been, or beepers? It would have constantly been like, beep, 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 beep. Everywhere you went. We used to have Henry Ford cars. Now we have these cars that drive themselves. We used to have to carry around little disposable cameras and go, and then you pray and pray that picture you just took with your friends gets developed and turns out good. And then you get it back and you realize it's all of your teeth like this, or it missed your friends, or it's not in focus. We have stacks of pictures that we got developed that I'm like, what even is this? But now we have our phones that if you want to take a picture, you go, and you take a picture and pause a moment in time. We look at how kids dressed back then. When we dressed when we were younger versus how kids dress nowadays. Like, I look at someone, I'm like, how old is that? Oh, she's 13. Well, she's not dressing like she's 13. Like, there's kids that dress like they are way older. And then when we were kids, remembering how we used to dress, it's just changing and evolving. Children beg to stay outside after dark. Now parents beg them to stay outside after dark. It's like, will you just go outside for 15 minutes? Please, go do something. But times are constantly evolving and times are constantly changing. But here's the thing that's so beautiful, is the same God, that was the same God in our Bible, that was the same God who created the heavens and the earth, the same God who made this beautiful scene, the same God who there's going to be a thunderstorm probably at some point today, the same God who controls the weather, the same God that controls all of those aspects is the same God today. So I'm going to go through this song with you together. It says, the same God who makes the planets spin, tells the tide when it should rise, puts the color in my eyes. The same God who makes the seasons change, knows the number of the stars. If we look at the book of Psalms 19:1, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies, I love this, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. I saw a quote that said, there is something beautiful about 1 billion stars held steady by a God who knows what he is doing. And I was like, wow, that is powerful. It says the same God knows every secret of my heart. He knows every worry. He knows every fear. He knows every doubt. He knows every concern. He knows every sin. You can't hide from God. I always tell my kids, God is like Santa Claus. He's everywhere. Just kidding. I know it's the opposite. It's just the thing I have with them. But God is everywhere, all-knowing, all-present. He is constantly there. You know, I think it's so funny when we think we're hiding our sins from God. He's the one that literally knows every single sin that we are doing. He knows the lie you told this morning. He knows every single thing that you have done, and we try and act like we're hiding from him, and it's like, no, I saw that. Called that. No, already knew that. Yeah, saw that too. Because he knows every single secret of our hearts. He knows your innermost thoughts. He knows your desires. He knows your feelings. He knows your struggles. The next line says, all my doubts, all my questions. Anybody ever have that? Yeah. Why God? Why now? Yeah. Why this? Why do I need to face this trial? Why this valley? Why can't I stay on the mountaintop? Why is this happening? Why did that have to happen? We don't know all the answers. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen today. But he knows, and he holds that in his hand. And every fear I have about what might happen. We don't know what tomorrow might bring, but we know who holds tomorrow. Every fear we have, we can bring to him. I work at a funeral home. Nathan and I both work at a funeral home. And there are so many stories that we can tell that are not good stories. It's not one of those that, we probably have a couple that's kind of like, this was an interesting situation. But a lot of times the stories we have are those that are hurting and those that have just went through something and those that are in pain. We had, I was just telling somebody, a group the other day about a month ago, I think, during spring break, there was a father that was driving his vehicle and he had his 3 daughters in the car. And the mother had full custody of the kids. Dad lived out of state, came, got the kids, and was taking them to Texas so he could see a grandma. Fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the median. I think it was a semi that hit them. 3 girls instantly gone. Ages 7, 10, and 12, I believe. The father lived, which I just can't imagine that. And the mother, they said, at the funeral, was just constantly making sure how everybody else was doing. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? And my boss and I just stood and I said, I can't wrap my mind around it. I cannot wrap my mind around that much grief and that much pain in one instance. And sometimes we simply can't. Sometimes we're not going to have the answer. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we don't know what to say, and sometimes we don't know what to do. But God's the same. God's consistent. God is still there. God still knows. He is the same God. And the chorus says, I love this, it says, you're the same God. You're with me in the middle of it all, God. He's not over there like, hey, peace out, good luck, I think you're going to do great. It's not like when you take your kid and throw him in the pool and say, you're going to figure out how to swim. Have fun. I'm just going to stand back and watch you. He is with you there in the middle of it all. Whenever we need him, we don't have to have all the answers. That's the best thing. We don't have to explain it all. We don't have to have all the answers because he has all of the answers. It says, I love this line. It says, you're catching every tear as it falls. Every tear as it falls. He sees you. He knows. In the Bible, he told us, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. He knows that we're going to have times of mourning. He knows that we're going to have times of sorrow. He sees the tears that you cry at night that nobody else knows about. He sees the tears that you close the door to your bedroom and try and act like you're okay, but you're really not okay. But you're going to make everybody else think that you're okay because you don't want to admit that you are not okay. Anybody ever have moments like that in life? It's one of those, how are you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's the automatic answer. I've been working recently when people ask me how I'm doing. I try and stop and answer somewhat honestly. Not like, oh my word, thanks for asking. Okay, can I get my post-it notes out? Because I made notes the other day with the next time somebody asked me this question. Number one, I am struggling with, no, I'm not. But sometimes we as a society get into this automated, how are you doing? I'm good. How are you doing? I'm fine. How are you doing? Great. I'm good. And you're really, really not okay. But the beautiful thing is you can pour your heart out to God. And He listens. And He cares. And He's there for you. Because the same God that created the heaven and the stars and the moon and the sun, that same God catches every single tear as it falls. Says, I know you'll never change, even when I am feeling far away. There are months of loneliness when we feel like God hasn't heard us. You ever been there? He hasn't heard our cries. But here's the deal. God's never moved. God's never moved. He is steadfast. He is constant. He is always there. I remember in youth class, I used to teach them, God is always right here. You can choose how close you are to Him and how far away you are to Him. Yeah. He doesn't move. It's not like this game of, what was it, Frogger we used to play, where it's like move around and dodge the cars and I'm here now. I'm here. Ha, you gotta come find me. Good luck. I'm hiding behind the bush. This is hide and seek with God 2.0. This should be fun. Count to 20. I'm going to go find a better spot and I'm going to come back. That's not how it is. God never moves. He is always there. He is always right there waiting for you to just reach out for Him. It says, you love me the same God. You're a God of grace and empathy. You know how it feels to cry. I absolutely love what I told Pastor the other day. I said, you did amazing at the graveside service for Emma. Because he talked about Jesus weeping. Yeah. Jesus wept too. He cried. He cried. If He cried, you can cry. I know I'm telling myself that because I don't like to cry. I hate to cry. But Jesus wept. He put that in the Bible. He knows pain. He knows sorrow. Now, in all fairness, He was able to raise His friend from the dead. Like, that would be a really cool power to be able to have, which we could, but probably not likely. But He knows sorrow. Right. He knows pain. He knows grief. He knows hurt.
Yes, yes.
And I love this part because you lived a human life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He came down. He could have stayed up in heaven. Right. He could have stayed up there hanging out and just been like, you know what? I don't need to come down there. I already created the heaven and the earth. Yes. I created this grass for them. I gave them food. I gave them water. Right. I don't need to come down there. They look like they're doing just fine. But that's not what He did. Right. He said, you know what? I need to experience the thing that they're experiencing. And He took on the form of human flesh. He lived a human life. He took on the form of a human to experience that. He can identify with our hurts. Yes. He can identify with our pains. Yes. He can identify with our rejection. Yes. He can identify with our depression. Yes. He can identify with our confusion. Because He has experienced all of the same hurts, all the same pains, the rejections when He walked as a man of this earth and He was crucified. He was tempted. And so when you say, oh God, you don't understand, and He's probably like, yeah, I do. I was there. I was on earth. I understand. I have been there. You are not afraid of anything. Because even darkness is a light. We live in a very dark world. There's plenty of darkness to make any of us tremble. Cancer ravages our families, killing 500,000 more every year in the United States alone. We just went through COVID, which was this huge thing where we lost a lot of people and we had so many questions and it tore relationships apart. There was so much fighting over masks or no masks or this or that or this or that. And we have so much darkness that just creeps its way in and we don't even know where it comes from. We're like, whoa, where did that even come from? Where did all this hatred come from? Where did all of this things that, we watch the media. I get so sick of the news. I get so tired of it. Because here's the deal. Bottom line, you know what the news is going to do? It's going to divide. Right.
Yes.
It is ultimately going to divide. Because here's the deal. If the news has nothing to report on, they're going to make some stuff to report on, right? Because otherwise they ain't in business.
Right.
So if they would say everything is hunky-dory in Des Moines today, everything is going wonderful and great and there's no problems at all, people ain't gonna be reading that. They're gonna be like, oh look, somebody else planted a garden again. Well, that's beautiful. Good for them. I hope your vegetables come up. That's just not how human flesh is. Usually we're like looking for what's going on and we're reading the news, and the news knows that. And so they step in, and there is division that is created. And before we even realize it, we've got brothers hating brothers. I was telling Nathan the other day, I was sitting in the parking lot at the funeral home, and a family got out of their car. I was eating my lunch, and a family got out of the car, and they were screaming at each other. And I'm like, I mean, this is probably not that uncommon, to be honest, sometimes at the funeral home. We had a gun pulled a couple months back. I mean, stuff like that happens. But I was listening to them, and they were fighting over why the gas prices were so high. And two of them were yelling, well, it's Russia's fault. And the other one's like, no, it's not. It's the president's fault. No, it's not. It's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you are about to walk into a funeral home to plan for a loved one, and you are screaming at each other in the parking lot over whose fault it is that the gas prices are the price that they are. Why? Because division and darkness has creeped in and is creating things in our world where there are families that are fighting against one another over things that really are pretty petty to be fighting with. Here's the beautiful thing though. God created what? The light. He sees the darkness. He looks at the darkness and he said, I see you, darkness. I am going to create something. I am going to put light into it. So it's twofold. He created the light, but he also created us to be the light of the world. Right. To take the light into the world. To show the light to those that are hurting. To be the light to those that don't have any light in their darkness. Pressures are mounting in our society constantly. People are trying to suppress Christianity left and right. It's very difficult sometimes to say how you're feeling. It's very hard sometimes to say what your beliefs are. It's not going to get any easier. Unfortunately, it's going to get harder. There's times that we feel uncomfortable when people ask us what our beliefs are, and we just kind of say, oh, I'm sure. Like, what was that? What do you believe in? Oh, nothing. We'll talk about it later. Because we just do not want to come against it. But they tell us in the Bible, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Yeah. But here's the deal. If we have found Jesus, we don't have to hide from the dark anymore. No matter how dark our days are. His light doesn't make the darkness any less dark. It just conquers every shadow with something that is stronger. The next line says, there's no reason I should hide. Oftentimes we hide from God, which is ironic considering he sees us. We sin. So we see people that quit church for a while. They miss services. They mess up. So we stop our prayer life because it's like, well, I messed up, so God doesn't care about me. I'm not going to pray anymore. We become like Cain and deny that we even know what God's talking about. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. God asks us, hey, what's going on? No, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about either. But here's the deal. God sees it. God knows. God knows exactly what's going on. He sees everything. But so there is no reason why we should hide from him because he knows. And the bridge is my favorite part. It says, even when I'm running, when I feel ashamed, even when I'm breaking, still, you love me. Yeah. Even when I'm lonely, when I lose my way, when I don't believe it, still, you love me. Yeah. The same God. You're with me in the middle of it all, God. Yes. You're catching every tear as it falls. Yes. I know you'll never change. Loneliness is on the rise, but here's the deal. We have each other. Yeah. Hopelessness is on the rise, but here's the deal. We have each other. Yeah. We have a church family. Everybody look around. Find somebody, look around at them. Find somebody else, look around at them. Make awkward eye contact. Wave at them even if you want to. Give them a peace sign. Whatever you want to do. We are a body as one together. And when one of us hurts, somebody else else has pain. And when we lose one of our own, we all hurt and we all have pain. But I tell you, there's something so beautiful. When, the funeral was one of the hardest things that we've had to go through. It was incredibly difficult. And I watched the emotions pour down the faces of so many people that loved Emma and cared for Emma and loved Anna and Juan and see the pain and don't understand it and the things that we're going through. But the most beautiful thing is that we had one another to look at, to hug, to hold, to say, you know what, I'm here for you. I got this. We got this. Because the same God gave us a church body that we are here for one another. He doesn't want us to be alone. You are not meant to walk this path alone. There is a reason we have a church building. There is a reason we have shepherds. There is a reason we have one another, because God has placed those people. That same God looks down and says, I created the heavens and the earth. I created this person for you, and I know you need each other. We are a body as one together. Henry Blackaby once wrote, he said, when God was ready to judge the world with a flood, he came to Noah. When he desired to build a nation for himself, he turned to Abraham. When he heard his children groaning under Egyptian bondage, he appeared in a burning bush to Moses. They were three of the most ordinary men, but God had work to do, and he knew just who to do it with. God has always given his people assignments that are too big for them to handle alone, so that a watching world can see, not that we can do, not what we can do, but what God can do. There is nothing too small for him. The songs we sang today said it. He is the God of the impossible. When we don't have the answers, when we don't see how it's possible, our God reigns forever. Our God is in control, steadfast and movable. There is nothing that is too impossible. Our God reigns. The same God who raised Lazarus from the dead, the same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who sent manna from heaven, the same God who healed the sick, the same God who made the blind to see, the same God who used ordinary people in the Bible for powerful things, the same God who calmed the storm, is the same God that when you walk up here at altar call in about 5 minutes and you say, God, I don't understand. God, I'm tired. God, I'm lonely. God, I'm sick. The same God is going to be the one that meets you right there. It is the same exact person. I was praying this morning in the back, and I was just praying to God, and I was like, oh God, praying over today and all that kind of stuff. And I wrote this down in my notes because I thought it was so beautiful. I thought, the same God, this whole list that I just said, the same God that did all that amazing things is the same God that I am sitting at this table, in this chair, in this little conference room in the back, praying to. And he spoke to me and said, I am the same one that is right here for you, as I have been for every single person in the Bible. A lot of times we create this persona that there's just this big God up here who did all this amazing things, and we're just this. I remember Brother Jackson was preaching on the topic of vulnerability, which, if you know me, I hate vulnerability. I do not like to be vulnerable. I do not like to get in situations that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like people to see me vulnerable. I don't like people to see me cry. It's very, very difficult. Brother Jackson was preaching on the importance of vulnerability and how we have to step back and say that we are vulnerable in his presence. Because we can't do it. We can't do it. And there's sometimes that I don't even want to be like, God, you've got too much stuff on your plate today to deal with me. Like, I'm gonna handle this on my own. Like, I think I got this. I'll be fine. But he is the same one that says, no. I'm here for you. I'm here for every single one of you. I am here no matter what you're going through. It might be a broken toe that is bringing you pain, and it might be your best friend just committed suicide. Every single need, there is nothing that is too big for God, and there is nothing that is too small for God. He sees every single thing. He is the God of the impossible. So as we stand today, I want to leave you with this thought. Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big your God is. Because the same God who made a way last time is going to make a way this time. You look at your mountain and see the impossible, and He already knows how you will conquer it. Let's raise our hands and tell God, you are the same God. You're the same God, Jesus. You're the one who created the heavens. You're the one that created the earth. You're the one who parted the Red Sea. You're the one who healed the sick. And you are the one that today hears my needs and see my worries and see my problems when I feel so insignificant. When I feel like the things don't matter to you, you see them and you already know them. You already know the pain that I'm facing. You already know the decisions that I have to make. You already know the things that I'm going through. You already know the things that are keeping me up late at night that nobody else knows about. You already know the cuts that are on my arms that I hide from nobody else because I don't want them to know that I'm struggling with it. You already know the eating disorder that I struggle with. You already know everything about me. You see everything about me. And you are ever there, never moving, steadfast. There for me no matter what. Because you are the same God. The same God. Make your way to the front today and just tell Him, Jesus, you are the same God, Lord. You are the same God. Jesus.